Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. So I just wanted to make a quick video after my kind of first day of playing Naafiri, my impressions on the champ, what items you should build, what you should max, and just in general, some idea of how to play her. Obviously, it's not going to be in depth as much as the normal guides because, well, we've only had her for a day. But I think we have some pretty good insights now into how she should be played, and hopefully it can kind of give you guys some sort of direction for how she should be played. Just take a quick look at the items. For your starting items, I would say start with Longsword Refillable or Longsword 3 Potions. Alternatively, if the matchup is really difficult, you can look to start Door and Shield and a Potion, but I've pretty much always been going Longsword Refillable or Longsword 3 Pots. For your normal build, you pretty much just rush out Dirk as quick as possible. You want to get towards your Dustblade early. I think Dustblade is the best mythic. Now, you can buy boots earlier than that. Naafiri is a champ that's quite good at roaming and also does use the ability haste and, of course, the Sum cooldown. So if you want to get this early, that's completely fine. But I think you're aiming towards a Dustblade. It's more you buy the Lucidity boots when it's convenient. Second item, there are a few choices, and I'm not sure if we've really worked out what's the best. I think Prowler's Claw is very strong. Some other options are stuff like Collector. I know some people have been trying out Hydra, which we'll talk about in a sec, but I think Prowler's is the most consistent. And after that, I really like Serelda's because the Armor Pen obviously is really nice. And also with how the bleed works, and we'll talk about the abilities too, having the bleed just constantly applying the slow is really, really nice. So I recommend this as your core build. To start by rushing out the Dirk, get boots and your mythic, and then build Prowlers and Sereldas. After that, you can build somewhat situationally, like stuff like Maw is really good if you need MR. GA obviously can keep you alive. Ravenous, I think this has a lot of potential on the champ, but I haven't tried it personally, but I do think it actually is good. So this might end up replacing Prowler second, we'll have to see, or maybe you'll build it later in the game. I guess stuff like Death Dance can be good as well. You can also replace Serelda with Cleaver if you prefer that. So there's like a lot of things that could be tried out, but I think this is what you should start with, and then after that, you can kind of look to mix and match. Next, let's really quick just go over to the runes. So for the runes, I think there's a couple different pages. I think that Naafiri is sort of weak in the first few levels, and to deal with that, it can be nice to pick a bit of extra sustain. So you can proc Electrocute really easily on this champ, and I would recommend taking these runes here. You got Taste of Blood for sustain, Second Wind for sustain, and this also kind of like synergizes well with you. Like you can get a lot of stacks on Eyeball really easily. Ultimate Hunter is super nice. It keeps your ability or your ultimate very low cooldown, which is of course good. And yeah, the Second Wind Overgrowth kind of helps, I guess, with being a bit tankier and surviving the lane phase. Now, if you're in an easier matchup and feel like you can get away with more stuff, what I would recommend is swapping Taste Blood to Sudden Impact. That is a better option if you can get away with it, depending on if you need the sustain or not. And also, if it's a really easy matchup, I'd probably swap Resolve to Sorcery. And then you can take, say, like Transcendent Scorch and just poke a lot with your Q. Alternatively, you could go for kind of like the scaling runes like this. You could even go Water Walk and you run around the map. But basically, I think if you need a stronger lane, go Resolve. Otherwise, you can kind of greed with Sorcery. Personally, I haven't really felt the need for more mana. So I haven't really used Mana Flow. But I mean, you could go Nimbus or something if you really wanted. But yeah, I think the runes are fairly straightforward. Now, there are things, again, that I haven't tried yet, so I've mainly been playing with the Electrocute page. I know people have said that First Strike has a lot of potential, and I could definitely see that. The only worry would be if it gets proc too easily before you can go in. So again, something I haven't tried. And another one you could experiment with is Hail of Blades, because the attack speed, I believe the dogs keep your attack speed, which could make the trades really good if you can get on your opponent. I do worry, though, because a lot of the time in lane, the only thing you're really doing is just proccing Electrocute, and that's it. So I would recommend, just starting with this and kind of working your way backwards. And if you want to try out some new pages as well, it could be worth. I'll really quickly explain the abilities for you, just in case you're not sure how they work. First off is the passive. You don't have that much control over this. You spawn a packmate, which is one of these dogs every 20 seconds. That is reduced by level. It's also reduced when you kill creeps, I think, and also when you hit champions. So there's a lot of ways to reduce it. And you can have more max packmates. I think you get 3 once you're level 9, but there isn't that much you can actually do to control them. For the most part, they're just going to attack what you attack. Like if someone with an auto or a spell, they'll go and attack it, but they do kind of function with your E, which we're talking about in a bit. Another thing with the dogs is that they do have a health bar. You can click on them and it'll tell you their health. They also can block skill shots, which actually makes a pretty big deal. There's a lot of matchups where if your opponent has a skill shot block, for example, Ari Charm, suddenly the trade is going to go a lot better for you. So keep that in mind as well, and it kind of acts as like a shield for you in fights as well, which is really, really cool. For the Q though, it's a line skill shot, and it's got 2 charges. The first charge, it deals some damage and inflicts a bleed. You can fire a second one off in a limited duration. So if I kind of show you here, you've got like this kind of time period to throw a second one. And the second one, it does the same thing if you hit a different target. So think of it as basically it can stack up. And if you hit the second one on the same target, the enemies take a bunch of damage. So you can read through it there, but they take a bunch of damage, and it also heals you if it's a champ. So basically what you'll see here is first one, okay, it applies a bleed, your dogs will go and attack it, all that good stuff. But if you hit the same target twice, it's gonna give you like the crit modifier thing here, yeah, this, and it's going to do a lot more damage, and also it's going to really easily allow you to proc electrocute with your dogs attacking it as well. So hitting both parts of the Q is really, really important because you get that sustain and you get a lot of damage. And it's also really, really good for wave clear. Next is the W. So this is a point and click dash ability, and it works, it is targeted, but it works on champs or creeps. Now, you can't just like press out in the middle of nowhere, but you can target, for example, a scuttle crab or something with it, and you can use it to dash over walls. So like if you have, you know, vision of a blue or a champion or something, you can press W on them and it'll charge up, and then you'll dash over the wall, deal some damage, it'll bring your dogs to it and all that kind of stuff there. Let me just bring these all back down here. So the interesting thing with this is that it gains range based on your ultimate rank. So later in the game, this is going to have a lot more range than it does now. And early on, it's not that good. Now, it does also slow the target for a brief moment, which is really, really nice. And it obviously brings the dogs with you as well and does more damage. So basically, the way you're going to use this is either to chase people down or to initiate the fights. There isn't that much to the ability, but just kind of keep it in mind, I suppose, that you can use it to dash the creeps over walls. Like, for example, if you're getting chased or something, you can W over the wall to the raptors as some sort of escape. Next is the E, and this ability is actually quite interesting. So you do a little dash forward, which deals damage, and then there's a second part which deals even more damage. The kind of crucial part, though, is that it recalls all your pack mates or your dogs back to you, and they restore 100% health to them, so it'll heal them to full. This is pretty important because the ability is very cheap, which means what you can do is you can go for some sort of trade like this, where your dogs go in, they're probably going to take some damage, and then you can just E them back to you, which is really, really nice. If you're poking like that, it allows you to keep your dogs at full HP without them getting killed and then having to wait ages to respawn. Alternatively, you know, if you do want to use it in a combo, you can do something like this, you know, where you're going in, trying to weave in orders and that, and then you can E to kind of heal your dogs back up. This also does allow you to go over walls. It's not the longest dash in the world, of course, but it can be useful, and of course, it's not targeted, which can be nice as well. Lastly, though, is our ult. So the passive on it, of course, is that your W gains range. We talked about that before, but it's got a lot of things to it. So the first, when you press it, you'll spawn more dogs around you. They'll also deal more damage, and it gives you vision of your surroundings and movement speed. On top of that, first time you hit a champion, you get a shield, which scales with your AD, which is really, really nice. So basically, the way you're going to use this is, like, for example, let's say we know someone's up here and we want to chase them. We might ult. It gives you that brief movement speed bonus, spawns the pack mates, and that allows you to catch up to people and get on them. And that shield, later in the game, it's really, really, really big. It's like 600 health sometimes, which allows you to survive that initial engage a lot better. As you get like Ultimate Hunter stacks as well, it'll be a lot lower cooldown, so you can spam it a lot, and it's really, really good for skirmishing and stuff like that. You'll note there as well, it says on first champion takedown that all effects are refreshed, so that first takedown will kind of give you all this again, including the kind of the initial active, which is really, really nice, I believe. But I'm 90% sure it refreshes the active, but it definitely refreshes the passive. And you can have a look there at all the stuff it does. I mean, there's a lot of different stuff, so if you want to go and have a look, be my guest. But for the most part, you just need to know that it's going to make you a lot stronger, make you do a lot more damage, move faster. It's kind of just like a steroid to every stat, as well as giving you all that vision. Now, for max order, you're always going to want to max Q first. After that, I think it's better to max E and then W, but I know some people have been maxing W second. So if you max W second, it does lower the cooldown a lot, which helps you clean up fights a lot easier, but your E is really spammable, and putting points in it makes it deal a lot more damage. So I think it's better to QE and then put points in W. I believe QW is not that far behind in win rate, so you could try it out. Also, as for when you're in lane, I like to go QEQ and not put a point in W until level 4. But if you do want to all in at level 3, then obviously you want to put a point in this at level 3. It can kind of depend. But I think that is kind of a general idea of how the abilities work. And for the most part, your trades are pretty simple. Again, you're going to either just like poke on people like this, proc that, and then just disengage your dogs. Or alternatively, if you kind of want to commit harder, you might W forward, and then you're just looking to kind of weave in as many orders and stuff as possible and use E to refresh your dogs there, get their health back, and of course deal more damage. Let's take a quick look at how we want to play her. So this is a game that I played on stream today. So if you want to go back and watch the VOD, it's on twitch.tv/ShokLol. I'll put a link to that in the description probably. So go have a look at that. But this is the Naafiri versus Ahri matchup, which I think could be kind of difficult at some point because she can just charm you when you look to W on her. That being said, your pack mates can block her charm, right? Which is really, really useful. The way I kind of see Naafiri playing out in the early game is I see her kind of similar to Zed, honestly, where she has like an ability to kind of poke from range, right? ZQ and the Fury Q. She also kind of spikes at level 3. If you can hit both parts of that Q, obviously you're going to deal a lot more damage. And I was getting priority in this matchup, which I didn't really expect. So I think that is like pretty kind of crazy, right? Like normally you can't get priority early game as an assassin. I expect that as people get better against playing the champ and they can dodge the Qs and stuff, that it's not going to be as good. But normally you're pretty happy just kind of farming until level 3. And that's when you can start to be really aggressive. I think as well, Naafiri, she doesn't really need to win lane. Like right now, she scales really, really hard. You definitely can win lane, but her damage is just super, super high. There is a hotfix coming, and I think by the time this video is out, the hotfix probably will have been applied, which kind of nerfs her damage a bit. And the thing is, though, I think it'll just make her strong rather than like very overpowered. Because right now her numbers are just way too high. I think she just does so much damage, especially if she kind of gets through that lane. So as you can see, early game, not looking for too much, just kind of looking to poke with Q when I can. I bring back the dogs to make sure they don't die to the AoE. Something I definitely need to get better at is hitting those Qs. I mean, you can see there, if you only hit one Q, it does decent damage, but if you hit the second one, obviously you proc electrocute, you proc the second part of Q, you just deal so much more damage, so definitely look for that. But you're not really looking, I guess, to find a lead on Naafiri early. Sometimes you can all in at level 3, definitely. Like if you notice your opponent uses too many cooldowns, you can just dash on them with your W and that can kill them for sure. But if you can get involved in early skirmishes, that's really where Naafiri shines. So you'll see this in a moment. There's about to be a skirmish in the Bot River, which is one that I walked to. And yeah, I mean, Naafiri is just amazing in any skirmish. Like, you're super strong. You can chase people because you've basically got 2 ways of getting over walls. And yeah, if you can get kills, it's super, super nice. I mean, here I managed just to, chase this Kindred all the way without even having to flash. Super nice. And if you can get any kills early, it's a super big deal. Because if you can base and just come back with like a Dirk or something, you're in just such a good spot. Now, you'll see here that obviously I had a red buff, so I was able to lane pretty easily. Now, the thing is, I wasn't diving this Ahri, even though I definitely have the damage to, because I was worried about her charm. And I think in hindsight, it depends a lot on where your dogs actually go after you W. So I didn't actually check this in-game, but if I W on her and my pack mates block the charm, then I can definitely kill her here. But what I was scared of was just Wing into her, getting charmed in the tower, and dying. So I assume that as people kind of get better at it and the matchups get more figured out, that there'll be a lot more kind of solo kills you can pick up, right? Like, I was really... Here, what I was trying to do is I was trying to get her to waste her charm, because I knew the moment she used it that I would just W on her and pick up a kill. But ultimately, I didn't end up doing that. But I come back with a lot of damage here. And again, if you can try and like look for opportunities to go on people, just like any other assassin would when they use cooldowns, it's super nice. And you can see here, right? Like, if you... This is like basically a full HP Ahri, and whenever I hit 2 Qs on her, I mean, just look how much damage she looted. Like, she is within lethal range just from hitting one set of abilities. The ult there is super nice, obviously, because it gives me the vision, and here I use the W to chase the Ahri. So you can kind of see that this champ is made for skirmishing. Currently, I think it's very overtuned in lane. I think that eventually Naafiri... I don't think Naafiri's kit is necessarily OP. I just think she does... Just the numbers are so high. Like, they just feel way too high. And I think eventually this champ will probably struggle in lane against some of the other mid laners, because they'll be strong enough to push her out of lane or kill the dogs and stuff like that. But at least for now, feels really, really ridiculous. So I think that's kind of like how you want to play the laning phase. If you can look for any roams or anything, like you can see here, I'm running down. I notice a low HP Misfortune. It's obviously really easy just to go in and kind of W her, and then you can either E out or whatever. Here, I think I actually misplayed this. I think I probably could have lived without flashing, but I didn't really know my limits that well, to be honest, so I just ended up flashing out. Wasn't the best, though. If I skip ahead here, though, once you get the Duskblade, that's when you're well and truly online. I mean, you do an absurd amount of damage. Obviously, this game was pretty one-sided, but yeah, it was pretty insane. And the ult, as I said before, is really low cooldown. Like, I think right now it was already down to like 80 seconds or something, so you can just pop it. I definitely should have ultied here. I kind of didn't realize that I could use it so sparingly. Yeah, that's when I checked it, and you see it was 80 seconds there. So I definitely should have just popped ulti there, and I'm pretty sure I would have killed her. So yeah, especially after you get, a little bit of CDR, you've got some ultimate hunter stacks. Don't be afraid, I guess, just to pop it immediately. I think that's really useful. But let's go a little bit ahead, kind of to where the skirmishes are happening. So I think in the mid game, Naafiri plays like a lot of other assassins, where you're kind of just looking to wait for people to use cooldowns before you end up engaging, right? Like here, obviously, a Zillion with nothing left is just going to be really free. And maybe this game isn't the best example because it is super one-sided, but I think it just showed kind of I guess the core parts of Naafiri that are really important. And like I said, the full VOD is on my Twitch if you guys do want to go back and watch the whole game. But nice thing as well about Naafiri in the mid game is that with your Q, if you hit both parts of it, you do actually have like quite a lot of wave clear. I believe this is being nerfed as well, and I expect in the future it'll probably be toned down quite a lot because yeah, right now it feels pretty ridiculous that you can farm so quickly. You know, you hit both of these and it basically just one-shots the wave, which most AD assassins, they kind of, if they wave clear fast, it costs them a lot, right? Like long cooldowns or a lot of mana or something, but it never really feels like that for Naafiri. So you'll notice that like the first part of Q costs 75 mana, but the second part is actually free. So you're never really going to use much mana, and your E is very cheap. So you can always use your E to kind of bring back the pack mates. But yeah, I mean, after that, the game pretty much ended. It was just a 15-minute FF, but hopefully you guys kind of got some idea of how the champ should play. I'm sure we'll kind of develop our understanding a bit of the champ. But at least for now, I think this should be a good start for you guys. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. I'd also be really interested to hear your guys' experience, especially with First Strike and Hail of Blades, because I didn't have the opportunity to try them yet myself. The champ gets picked or banned pretty much non-stop, so I don't have the most games on it. But yeah, please let me know what you guys think. Also, let me know if you enjoyed this kind of day one look at a champ. What I normally do is wait until I have like a really solid info about the champ, you know, maybe a couple weeks after it's out. But I think there's a lot of you that are probably not too sure like where the champ should be played, what it should do, and all that sort of stuff. And I think this could really help. But thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.